Welcome back. What are we doing today? Well, back on the 421. So one of the things I use the 421 for is edge cutting. I've got a couple of different edge cutters and I needed to make a front mount to be able to put the edge cutter on. And one of the things I wanted to do was get it as close as I could to the front of the vehicle so the weight of it is not sitting too far forward. So some time ago I added hydraulic feeds for the front to be able to operate aspects of the hedge cutter. I've got one that entirely runs off the vehicle's hydraulics, and I've got another much larger one you might be able to see tucks in here that runs off the rear PTO with some hoses running forwards to it. So I made a mount, a universal mount that would mount both types of hedge cutter to my own design. These are the parts. So there's a great big cross member here for the top link on the edge cutter, and then a couple of uprights, and these are part of the A-frame that go back to the chassis. But when I made this, I knew at some point what I wanted to do was make a three-point linkage for the front. So I tried to design it in such a way that I could use this same mount for the three-point linkage as well. So that's what I'm going to be working on next, is a hydraulic three-point linkage for the front. Now you can get off-the-shelf three-point linkage for the front of the 421. In fact, for most, even the older Unimog models, you can get front linkage. But a couple of issues with those for the 421. One is cost. It's really expensive kit, but is very well made. Particularly getting it to the UK from Germany is expensive. And the other thing I realised is that for the 421, the kits that were out there, it wasn't a folding front linkage. You could dismount it, you could take the arms off, but I wanted one that could actually fold up against the front of the vehicle so it's not sticking out all the time. And you can get that for the 406 and the 416 or 416, but I couldn't find that for the 421. So I want to design a setup or design the link arms that they can fold up against the front of the vehicle. So what I'm going to do first of all is I never entirely finished these. You can see there's a bit of rust and things on them because I wanted to go back. I knew I was going to do some more welding on it. So I'm probably going to need to clean up where the rust is in the sandblasting cabinet. So I've got clean metal to work with. But first thing I want to do is loosely mount this back on the vehicle, and then make some templates so I can get the geometry right for the lift arms and things. I've got a nice pile of steel arrived this morning. Some of this is for this Unimog, where I'm going to be building a body for the back of it for carrying logs and wood chip. It's a customer's vehicle, but at the same time I ordered some steel for myself, some of this, so I can construct my front linkage is the plan. So that's the front mount in place. It takes about 5 minutes to put on. I tried to design it so it was quick and simple to put on. And at the moment what happens is the hedge cutter just sits on these two pins and a very short top link goes in the top. And that's worked really well. But what I now want to do is put link arms on the front. At the moment this Unimog hasn't got a front PTO. I've got a front PTO, I just haven't got around to fitting it yet. So I need to make some clearance so front PTO can work with any implement that's on the front. But one of the reasons I wanted front linkage is for some jobs I need to take two implements some distance away to other people's properties and things. I might want to use them on the back, but it just means I can transport both in a single journey. It's raining again, which you can probably hear. So these are the beginnings of the extensions to this frame to make the pivot point for the link arms. So what I've done is I've measured on the back of the vehicle where the height of the 3-point linkage is, and I've used that basically to make the same height here. I thought that would make some sense. So my bracket's going to end up going something like that. See if you can see. And what that will do is push the pivot point behind the top link, which should keep the angles correct. I need to work out how I need to attach one to the other, where I need to cut it, that sort of thing. I think that should do the job. What I will need to do, I think, is make thicken this plate where the hole goes through, because when I've got the linkage attached to here, all that force pushing that way is only going to be on that bearing surface. So I need to make something a bit chunkier. So that's it tacked, put it back on the vehicle and see if things are lining up. So there we are, this will be the fulcrum for the lower link arms, which is now well behind where the top link will be. So here's one of the mounts welded up now. And these are my square washers, which will go on something like that. So they'll do two things. They'll spread that load over a bigger area, but also it will push the pivot arm in slightly, so it can be clearing the rest of the mount. I know it's not going to be rubbing against this. So that's the square washers welded on. I'll go and put it back on the Unimog again and just do a final check that the mounting pin can be slid between them freely. But now I know this is working, I can start to think about the geometry of the link arms. So what I've done to be able to mock that up, this is going to be the angle I've got to fabricate into the link arm. I put this on. You can see this is a bit over length at the moment, but that's basically going to be the profile of the link arm. We're going to have a big piece of box section across there that the hydraulic ram will pick up on. But the idea is obviously for picking up it's going to be down low like that, and then I think probably maximum height under load, and then kind of fold them all the way up to there for travelling. That's the idea anyway. So I can use this to basically work out the angles for fabricating the link arms. Before I get on the link arms though, what I've done is cut out this opening for the PTO to come through. As I say, there's no PTO output fitted on this Unimog at the moment, but it will be at a later date. So I've cut this out. I was originally going to do it as a curve profile, but I don't want to unnecessarily take out any rigidity that this piece of steel is giving me, particularly when I'm going to be hanging a hydraulic ram off it. So I've cut it to there. I think that's probably going to be enough. If I find later, when I actually come to use it, it's not enough, I can take this off and adapt it and cut it out further. But I think at the moment that looks, it's left lots of depth to this steel and it looks pretty neat and tidy. For this link arm, I'm going to use weld on lower links to go on the bottom rather than drill a hole. The advantage of that is it'll take up any bits of misalignment and things. It's a little bit forgiving. And also these link arms will need to come out slightly. The width is slightly larger, same as these eyes by the time it's out here. So that'll save me, I'm hoping it'll save me having to put a bend in the link arm horizontally. I should be able to just bring it out in one length, but we'll see when I actually come to start fabricating it. This is the steel I'm going to use, so I think this is 12mm by 50, so I'll be welding the link arm onto this or the lower link, making my link arms out of these and then reinforcing it in various ways. So starting to do that is the next job. So all I want to do is mark up where the pin will go through, then that will dictate where I cut the steel, and I need to work out the angle here divided by 2, so I'm cutting this at the right angle so I can make a nice neat joint that's accurate between the two. So using my old school protractor, I can see that the angle here is 135 degrees. So if I divide that by 2 and mark that up on here, I should be cutting it at the right angle. So I've marked up where the angle changes. Now I need to put my protractor on that mark. And half of 135 is 67.5. So if I line up on 67.5 and scribe a line, okay, I don't know whether the camera picks it up, but that's the line I need to cut on. And what I should be able to do is then just reverse that piece and it should give me the right angle without any wastage or any problems. And while it's all marked up on one. I'll put the other piece of steel in that will make the other arm. It's easier to mark it up now than later. So, that seems to be okay, seems to be working. So I'll clean up these ends. The weld-on ends have already got a chamfer on them, so the weld will penetrate. So I need to do the same on wherever I'm going to have a join on here. So that's the next job. So I've just propped this up with pieces of steel because the eye is slightly thicker than the steel flat that I'm using. And I've also scribed a line down the centre of this to make sure the eye was on centre. These two ends need to be square. It's hard to measure a square on the end of this because of the shape of it. So scribing that line and getting it on centre is the best way to check. So I'm just going to tack weld it. Okay, I think that's going to work. This is obviously far too long at the moment, but we can cut that down when I've double checked the length and I'm sure that it's correct. So far, that's so good. So what I'm trying to do here is get the two link arms symmetrical. So here's the first one I've made. I've tack welded where the joint is in the second one, and then because this weld-on ball link is a different thickness, I've had to pack it out with all sorts of things, including finally found a use for the old angle grinder discs. I've used them as washers essentially to try and pack this out, but everything is lining up nicely, so until I knock it off. But I should be able to now weld on the ball link for the arm. So we go at that. So that's the second link arm welded up. I may end up putting a web or something in here to add some additional strength. Not sure yet. I think the next job is put it back on the Unimog, put both of them back on the Unimog and see how it's looking. I bought this type of link where the ball can drop in from above. You don't need to slide it in from the side. So what I should be able to do is kind of work out where these are going to need to sit. Obviously they will end up like that somewhere. At the moment I can just sit them on the ground and roughly work out where they need to go. Again, I don't need to be super accurate about this. Within a centimetre or two it'll still be fine because I've got adjustment at the top here. But I think probably something like that. So I'll mark one of these, cut it, and then I can cut the other one in the same place. Let's get a tape measure and actually see how long these link arms are going to be. So I've just measured the rear ones and they're 86 centimetres centre to centre, and the front ones are going to be 79 centimetres. It's a little bit shorter than the back, but obviously I'm further away from the axle. So that should be about right. Fairly happy with that. So I've cut this to length now. I'm going to tack weld this on. I think what I'm probably going to do is increase the thickness and add a sort of a web as well, to make the area so this doesn't become a hinge really, where it thins down, because the arms are relatively lightweight. So I'll put something like that in to add some strength. And there we are, with that web welded on, or that triangle of steel welded on. So there we are, we're getting somewhere close. Geometry seems to be alright. And this seems to be turning into quite a long video, so I think we're going to leave it here. So part 2 we'll finish off working on the link arms, putting the framework in, adding some more rigidity, and then look at the hydraulics. So I'll see you next time.